Kevin is in his late 50s and was born in Canada, but has an American, Irish, and Scottish ancestry. He's a co-founder of the Covenanted Congregationalist Community.
Thank you. Can you all hear me, first of all? In the back, you can hear it all right? Okay. Thanks for coming. And it's good to be back home. I grew up in the prairies, and it always felt like home. It's kind of funny watching people find their seats. My first church was out in southwest Manitoba, and a lot of the towns there, like probably around here, are gradually dying off. And there was this one town, Lyleton, where I went in, and the church building used to be able to seat about 250 people, and there was about a dozen people there on the Sunday. But they're all sitting where they used to sit for 50 years in the pews, right? And they wouldn't budge. And I made the sacrilege of suggesting they move up kind of closer so I didn't have to shout. And they looked at me like I'd just done, urinated in the front of the church or something. How dare you suggest I move from my pew? So they all sat there and I had to yell every Sunday so they could be heard about it. And it just kind of struck me. What I was going to say is if you ever feel like moving a bit closer, that would be okay, because there's actually heat wafting in from that hallway and I might catch a bit of it. But
this is all hearsay. This
totally hearsay, because Jesus, if he existed, and again the verdict is out on that, whether he even existed.
Welcome, living beneficiaries, to the show for living beneficiaries, the House of Hidalgo show on the Estate Radio Network. Prepare for the most educational 60 minutes on Olive Radio with your host, Rick Hidalgo. The House of Hidalgo show can be followed on Twitter and Facebook by searching House of Hidalgo. Find the show on the web at www.therockofsalem.org. Sign up for the newsletter, and while you're there, take the 5-question survey to let us know what you think. The Estate Radio Network is part of the Blog Talk Radio family of networks and can be found at www.blogtalkradio.com/South Dakota DP. Join the show now by chat or call 619-639-4605. Don't forget to dial 1 to get in the queue. Here's your host, Rick Hidalgo!
This is all hearsay. This
Totally hearsay, because Jesus, if he existed, and again, the verdict is out on that, whether he even existed.
Before you came to the United States, what happened to you in Ireland?
Well, it was interesting. I made a hotel reservation in Dublin, and nobody could have known about that because it was simply done on the computer. And when I got there was a fellow waiting right outside the hotel, and he said, "Kevin, are you Kevin?" And I didn't say anything, and he began to go babble on about stuff almost like he had been briefed about it. Not like he had a knowledge of it, but he had just been briefed. And he said, "There's some people who you've got to meet. Come on down this alley." And he had me by the arm, right? And I basically talked my way out of it and said, "Well, let me go check in here in a minute. I've just got to check into the hotel." There was a group waiting outside. When I looked out, they were ready to swarm me and take me away somewhere. So I made a few calls. We got the Garda, the Irish police. I just basically said I was being assaulted. The police showed up, and at that point, these guys took off. But, it was interesting because who could have known about that except somebody who had read my computer? Because nobody else knew except what was on the computer, right?
I know that within the organization of IATCCS and ICLCJ, there's been massive computer and internet harassment, and we keep moving forward in those areas, but it can be taxing.
Well, we're definitely under assault, and that's why the court had to take these measures. And it's also an indication of, it's like I found with the churches in Canada, it's how they react. Like, Sun Tzu in The Art of War says you've got to provoke the enemy to learn about them, to see how they respond. They are very worried about Ireland. Just like the churches in Canada were very worried as soon as we started talking about mass graves of kids, because they knew that, yes, there are those mass graves there. We don't want that looked at. In Ireland, there's something, they're very worried about us doing work there, and they've gone out of their way to subvert the groups that are working there with us, to start the, divide and conquer and rumor mill and all that stuff over there. So that's, by their actions, they're telling us something. Yeah. And, that's the only place there was an incident in France too, but basically, whenever I go to Ireland now, those kinds of things start happening, and so I think that tells us something.